Question of the day. What's a game that you immediately, after playing the first time, turned right back around and played it again? Whether that was for increasing your score, whether that was just because you enjoyed it so much, or whether that was like, I don't know how I really felt about that game. Now, typically, obviously, you wouldn't do that immediately if you hated the game, but what's a game that you immediately turned around and played again right after playing the first time? Let me know in the comments below what that would be. But I'm Brian Drake here on the Dice Tower. Today, we're looking at a game called Neom. I don't know how to say this else. It's Create the City of Tomorrow. Honestly, anytime I say this game, early 2000s era John Mayer song just plays in my head over and over with the wrong lyric, Neom, as opposed to neon. But this is Lookout Games. You know what I love about Lookout Games, besides the picture on the box, is usually a consistent level of quality. Let's take a look right now, see how Neom plays, what kind of a game it is. It's a tile laying game in which you're trying to build the best city. Has some mechanics that are familiar if you played things like Seven Wonders. Let's take a look right now, see what it is, how it plays, and if you should play it right now. So this is what a city could look like at the end, right? You would score based on all these different parameters at the end of the game, but this is what it might look like. You'll have everything based, laid out here on the board, and it could be connected to your city center. So let's look at what it looks like blank. You would start the game blank like this. All the tiles would be over to the side. You would separate the tiles based on the 3 generations, 1, 2, and 3. You start with the city center that produces a type of good. You'll take the token of that type of good here, and you'll sit it above your city. You'll notice that the victory points and the amount of money per type of good is listed up here at the top of your board. There is no reference card of turns and what you can do on your turn, but on your turn, you're going to take one of 8 tiles out of your hand because you're going to get a stack of tiles that looks like this, 1, 2, or 3. 8 of them. You're going to look at it. You're going to pick the one you want. You're going to take it. You're going to sit it in front of you. You're going to pass the other 7 to the person to your left. Everyone's going to keep doing this 8 times until you have your board filled up for the first generation. After that, you'll get income, which would be symbols on the bottoms of cards that have this shape. Boy, whoever played this board did really terrible with income. No, they had no income. Seriously? Here we go. You'll have this shape right here where it's income on the tile, and it looks like that. This symbol right here. So it gives you 3 after the end of every generation. So after the first set of 7 tiles to be passed around, you'll collect whatever's in this type of shape. Now, this is what tiles typically look like. This is either a residential or a commercial. That's why it's blue and green. Most of them are single type. For instance, like the orange here, this orange tile, what it does is it provides victory points based on a certain condition. So it gives you victory points based on the amount of those gray city tiles you have, and it gives you an extra point per basic resource you have. So a good way to rack up points. The person who's won has had this tile both times. I'm not saying it's overpowered. I'm saying it's a good tile. This one, on the other hand, it gives you 3 victory points. It also gives you 3 coins immediately and 3 coins at the end of every time you do the income phase. This is where the cost is. So this would cost cement and glass. This is what it does. This is a victory point listed with it. And then the road is shown here. Now, they might be different types of roads, whereas this one, you'll notice, has no cost, doesn't provide any good, but it's worth just 3 victory points. Green tiles are special because they are worth a chart, basically, of victory points. If you have green tiles connected in roads to each other, they make a neighborhood. And the more green tiles you have in a neighborhood, the more points they're worth. This one just scores you 3 victory points flat, plus being in the neighborhood. There are some, though, that will give you actual resources to add to your cities. This one includes a new resource, and these will be used for other buildings that cost that type of resource later in the game. Buildings will cost, or things will cost not just resources. Some of them might cost money. Some of them might have requirements where you need to have a certain amount of types of buildings out there, but that's basically what all the buildings look like. There's one thing that's like a hazard in each phase. You have a flood, then a fire, and then just crime in the area. And so you just have to just play all these different tiles that key off each other. It's hard to explain without, unless you look at every single tile, but they all do different things that key off each other into where you're building out. Everything has to be connected to the city center, but you might end up accidentally shutting off this area here, which you're allowed to do. But you got to kind of keep those roads conscious, but you also have to kind of build out points to get the most points. based on what you have in your tableau. You'll start the game with 3 cornerstone tiles, which will kind of give you a heads up of where you want to shoot for some points. Otherwise, you just play to the strategy that you know typically works. At the end of the game, the actual scoring looks like this. Off the pad, we'll go through kind of what scores you points here. Let's see. The scores are pretty consistent. So the first part is just the flat cost listed on the buildings themselves, the ones that have the number in the top right. Then you have the question mark ones. Those are the contingent ones based on the certain things. Then you have the neighborhood that we talked about. Then you have resources. So the basic goods are worth 1 point apiece. The next level goods are worth 2 points apiece. And the big dogs like the computer chips, the diamonds, and the cars are worth 10 points apiece. So if you can get your hands on multiple of those, that's great. Every 2 coins is worth a point. If you have a city with pollution, which would be, let's see if I can find one right here. This symbol in the top right. If you have pollution orthogonally adjacent to a green space, it's -2 points. If you have it diagonal to a green space, it's only -1 point. That's what that is for. And then down here, it's the ghost town I mentioned. If you have only 1 green tile, it's worth -4. If you have no green tiles, it's worth -10. If you have no energy, it's worth -5. You total up the points. Highest points wins the game. So that's Neom. Fantastic game. I really was blown away by how much I like this game. I didn't think I would like it this much when I first opened up the box, started looking at it. I was like, okay, seems like simple tile laying. Right now, we just played Rajas of the Ganges, which has that similar tile board where you lay out your tiles and you have the roads that connect them, and they need to be connected on a road network, right? Well, and we've also played games like Seven Wonders and Between Two Cities and Between Two Castles and Mad King Ludwig, where you're drafting tiles and putting them out. Well, this one's different because it's your own player board, but obviously the similarities are there to other games. A nice amalgam, a nice mixture of other games, like Seven Wonders meets Between Two Cities meets Rajas of the Ganges sideboard is honestly the best way to describe this, because you have those tiles and they all do different things. They all score differently. They're all worth more points. I love the neat art of the roads connecting and going into each other to make your city just look like a nice laid out city. I like the tricky little rules, right? If you have no residential areas, you get -10 points. This is a ghost town. If you have only 1 residential area, you get -5 points. If you have no power, you get -5 points. It's just a lot of really cool mechanics that make this game pop when it's on the table. It looks nice. It plays very quick, especially if you've played this several times. You can go through this really, really quick because the symbols actually start to make sense at that point, and you know what everything does. You know what you need. You can just look at the tiles in your hand, pick the one you want, pass it to the next player, and get the game knocked out really quickly. Now, let's talk about things that irritate me a little bit. Would be some of the symbology is not great on the tokens, and then you have the massive gallery in which every single card is listed, which I like, but it's listed by name, not number, not symbol. It's listed by name. So you kind of have to just know, okay, this is a prison. Let me look up what the prison does. Now, once you've played it one time, you can typically know what these symbols mean. Now, some of them are weird because they're like, have pairs of these types of things or have 2 of these types of buildings touching. Well, you can't tell that just from looking, which is why it's nice having the index there. But that part is just a little frustrating. Sometimes the symbols aren't 100% clear the very first time you play. And once you played it again, though, you kind of get it. I like the art. I like the way the buildings have a kind of a surreal, modern, futuristic look. You know, the home of tomorrow, like the old Bugs Bunny cartoons and stuff. But it has a very cool appeal like that. I like the way the roads work, where you have to make sure the roads are connected to your main city hub, the city center. I think that's cool. I like the idea where if you build over an old building, you lose that token. I like the idea of the whole, you produce this, but you don't really produce it like a resource to collect. You produce it like an abstract thing like Seven Wonders, and you can buy from your neighbors and get the trade routes or whatever they call it on here. It's a win for me. I really, really can't stress how much I like this game. I like the way it looks. I like the way it plays. I like how fast it is to play, but it also has some really nice and deep strategy. So go check out Neom from Paul Sadasanti and Lookout Games. Again, look out for this one. No, don't say that. That's stupid. Anyway, this is a fantastic game. It's really good. It's going on the shelf. It's going right next to all the other Lookout games that I have. It's just so good. I can't say enough good things about it because it does enough different things in the tile laying to make it deep, complex, and point-sality in a sense, but also is very accessible. You can teach this one fairly easy. It's just with the exception of those symbols. So go check out Neom. I'm Bryan Drake here on the Dice Tower. Congratulations, Dice Tower Kickstarter. Amazing job finishing strong. Until next time, follow me on Twitter, on Instagram, @TheLatestRetro, and I'll see you.
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews, as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. You can also find other great shows at Dicetowernetwork.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. The Dice Tower